Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for honoring us with your attention, first and foremost. My name is Mahwa Shejaz. I'm a writer, journalist, and a clinical psychologist. I'm delighted to be your moderator today with these very two illustrious guests who I would like to introduce without further ado. I'm sure you already know them. Shazia Ali Khan is a noted filmmaker and screenwriter. Her Dubai-based film, Pinky Mem Saab, was a critically acclaimed feature which she wrote, produced and directed. It featured on Netflix and in cinemas across the globe. Shazia currently teaches filmmaking in Dubai and is working on more features as we speak. Thank you so much for joining us, Tariq. And on my right, we have Amna Mufti, a celebrated novelist and screenwriter. Her works on television have gathered critical and commercial success, and her current show, Khushboo Mein Base Khat, or Perfumed Letter as you will have it, is being loved by audiences globally as it hits the rating charts as well as the audience's hearts, which is no minor feat. Amna, thank you so much for joining us. थोड़ी सी तालियां हो जाएं अगर आमना के लिए ज़्यादा थोड़ी सी. So, I just want to do a small introduction of Pakistani dramas and then we'll get straight into the conversation. We have a limited amount of time. We'll also open the floor for questions and answers. Thanks to social media, we live in an age of storytellers, and that's why this panel today is extra relevant. The Pakistani drama has had a long and illustrious history, and this is for the less versed. I'm sure many of you already know about the history of Pakistani dramas. They're mostly in Urdu language, the lingua franca of Pakistan. However, the state has had multiple regional channels, stations, which also reflected the TV shows in respective languages. The dramas you see on the screen today began in the late 1960s, but the content predates that even more. Urdu literature has a fascinating history where Miratul Urus, or The Bride's Mirror, was considered the first Urdu novel written by Dipti Nazir Ahmed in 1869. While some consider it to be Umrao Jan Ada. There is a debate. By Mirza Hadi Riswa. Since then, it is the Urdu novel which has given eventual birth to the beautiful and oftentimes thoroughly commercial Urdu drama which we see today and which we shall discuss. Pakistan currently has multiple TV channels, a break from the state-owned PTV, a place where I gathered a lot of learning and experience as a host and a part-time actor, but more on that later. Currently, the Pakistani drama is watched all over the globe with a great fan following from countries which don't even speak Urdu. Pakistani dramas are translated into multiple languages, and many of our television stars continue to shine bright on the big screen as well as digital media. I want to start off the conversation by a question which I'd like to pose to both the participants of this illustrious panel. And for those of you who already know the Pakistani drama, you're going to enjoy this round of conversation. For those who are new, please do note down your questions, and we hope that you can take this journey with us into a bright future as you also become fans of the Pakistani drama and literature. My first question is to both of you, and you can, start with Amna. You can start with answering this. That, there are many misconceptions about Pakistan, about Pakistani society. Do you feel that our literature and drama is alleviating these misconceptions or compounding them?
I think, Shazia, you should start from this because it's a direct attack.
Is it though?
So, I want you to help me. Yes, it's really
You want me to attack?
Yeah, she wants you to defend this attack on the Pakistani drama.
I'm the wrong person.
Oh, okay then.
But anyway, I'll start.
take it in my stride.
I keep saying that there is no right answer or an exact answer to that question. Is it a cultural depiction of what's happening in Pakistan? Of course it is. If it wouldn't, then obviously if it wasn't, then it wouldn't sell. And there wouldn't be these massive audiences in Pakistan and out of Pakistan who would be appreciating such stories. So, you gave us a lot of references from the past and from literature and history of the subcontinent and Pakistan in general. If we take, for example, Manto, right? As all of us know, in the times that Manto was writing, what was he stated as. He was talking about the taboo, he was talking about the so-called filth of society. The Pakistani dramas to some extent also do that. So I think it has a lot to do with the suppression of society, and when people on their screens see the things that they themselves are experiencing,
Surrounded by, yes.
are surrounded by, and yet are not able to talk about it, obviously there's going to be a click. So that's one thing. So in terms of the choice of topics or the controversies attached to Pakistani drama storylines, that I think it is a true depiction of what the Pakistani culture and society is going through. However, the way it is executed may be stereotyped. So what we've done is that we've taken our usual formula of a villain, of stereotype characters, stock characters who are either totally evil or totally good, and have somehow tried to adapt these taboos and then these social issues onto it, which is why some people may find them, cliched and unreal. But I feel, I mean, I'm being a diplomat here and sitting on the set, but I feel that if only the execution of the storytelling, and then I'm sure as a script writer, Amna will tell us what the constraints are over there, but only if the characters are more real, and we've seen in so many dramas where the characters have been real enough for people to truly connect,
Relate to them. Yes.
and so on and so forth. Ankahi, Dhoop Kinare, those are simple stories saying simple things about our culture, but the reason why they connected so well, not only with Pakistanis living in Pakistan but abroad also, was because they were real. They were real. The execution of the characterization was real. That's my humble opinion. And then obviously, having said that, having been part of the film industry and the script writing thing, I know that there is a big bridge between writing something with your heart and marketing it and getting money to actually execute it, get it published or made into a film. There's a huge gap. So maybe the writers are feeling those constraints, and yet they want to be talking about what's happening in their society. If that's just a start, what I feel. Maybe Amna can add to this.
So truth has a widespread appeal. But then what's your experience? You need to switch it on.
Yes. Thank you, Shazia, for providing me the grounds. In fact, if we talk about the depiction of society, drama is basically not here to depict society. Yes, it's mirror of society. But if we talk about the present drama, they are basically written for the purpose of entertainment. But we have a legacy from PTV. In those days, dramas were written for infotainment. So it is a wide difference between infotainment and entertainment. Now, entertainment for whom? Entertainment for our target audience. Our target audience are women. So now what is their taste in a society where I think the ratio of education is very low. So the issues, the problems and the execution of those issues and problems, they are not of that standard that we believe should be there. So it's not depiction of our society in the true meaning of the term. But yes, we are trying our bit of the work. Some writers, but if we present 100 shows in a week, 2 or 3 shows are up to the mark or closer to the mark, not up to the mark. Yes, the remaining 98, they lack. So it's a journey that's going on, and we are trying to make our content better, we are trying to make our execution better, and we are also trying to elevate the taste. So all this is a joint journey of viewers, writers, producers, directors, and channel owners. So we are trying to do our best. Yes, it's a long way to go, and if there is some lack, I admit it's my fault.
No, it's not your fault. None
Be
of,
the writer, and first rule of leadership: everything is your fault.
yeah, but we're not really leaders, it's teamwork.
Writers are somehow they are the leaders. If you talk about drama, in films, director is the captain of the ship, but in drama,
Actually, Pakistan industry is very peculiar in that way because filmmakers, I believe, in Pakistan have far more liberty than TV writers because TV writers are constrained by channeled expectations and ratings, and you can make an independent film far more freely.
the basic culprit is rating,
Yes.
and the rating system is very unpredictable.
It's a bit weird, yes.
It's not weird. I think it shouldn't be there. There are only 5,000 rating meters. They cannot judge how good content is. So only 5,000 viewers out of, I think, how much we are? 22 crore.
Yeah, 22 million, yeah, to 220 million rather.
So it's something very.
But we have YouTube now, so YouTube has also become a very good barometer for success and failure. And that's my next question actually, that when you rightly said that you're trying to elevate a character and your current TV show, and somebody sent me this question, Sadaf Haider, who also writes a lot about Pakistani dramas, she sent me this question and she wanted to ask why and how is it possible that a writer can make or create a story which is commercially successful but also satisfies the critic in you or somebody who's a aficionado of Urdu literature. So how do you balance a story like that? And I'm going to ask you the same question about filmmaking. Is it possible that we write amazing stories and we create brilliant characters, but then it also becomes like gets you 1 billion views on YouTube, or is it only going to be terrible things that sell?
I wish there is a big conception in good content and popular content. In fact, every good content is a popular content. So to write something boring and saying it's something very elevated, very philosophical, people cannot understand it, it's not something that I think is the answer. There are many people who really write something very boring and then they come and sit on the stage and say Pakistani viewers don't want it. Pakistani viewers want good content. They have very good taste. I believe in my viewers. And as you talked about Sadaf, nowadays my play Khushbu Mein Base Sab, the Perfume Letters, it's on air, and as all you have watched it, it's written about the poets. And it's a niche. Even writing for the niche audiences, it's getting rating.
It's working.
It's working, getting rating, and it's critically acclaimed. So it's not a rocket science. Just write with your pen, with your own pen. Write with your own heart. Write with your own conviction. So it's not a rocket science. We can create good content that will be critically acclaimed, and our viewers are very intelligent. I always believe in my viewers, especially I don't believe in segregation, that our viewers are only the women. Men also watch dramas, they also need entertainment. It's the big misconception that only, and people say, especially our men folk, the stereotypical men folk, they say, we don't watch dramas.
No, I think they totally watch dramas.
They watch
Totally.
dramas.
And we've got men in the audience, so we can do a quick poll here also.
Yes, they watch dramas. So while writing, we should keep in mind that our audience are universal. We are not writing for any sect or any section of society. It's a cross section. It should be a cross section. So write whatever you want to write. But again, there is pressure of society. I can say it because I am here after a long journey. So I can say. But new writers, they can't say. They have to work as the industry dictates them. So yes, there is a wide gap between established writers' view and a newcomer in the society.
Shazia, what's your take? Do you feel the same way?
Yes,
It goes up.
Yes, I agree with Amna that every good thing that comes straight from the heart and is felt by the writer before it's translated on the paper will find its audience. Even if it's written for a niche, Pinky Babe Saab is also a classic example. It was made on a very low budget. It was for a niche audience in the sense that half the film was in English. And I remember that when the Ever-Ready distributor, when we took it to Pakistan, Satish Anand Saab, the first thing he said to me was, half of it is in English, how do you expect it to do well amongst the Pakistanis? At least Urdu mein to likhti. I said, sir, it's about expat Pakistanis who've actually forgotten how to speak Urdu. So obviously, in order for it to be real, and it did find its way. It found its way into the hearts of not only just the elite,
or the expats.
But also I saw that there was, and I mean, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I'll take another example. So I was meeting Ahmed Ali Akbar recently for a potential role for another project, and he came to my house in Islamabad. And you know, I praised Parinita to the
Parizad, yes.
Parizad to the skies, and he said, Shazia, it was for the educated elite, and yeah, I'm very lucky we got that kind of fame. And all the staff, not only in my mother's house, but the entire street lined up as he was going back just to meet him. They don't even own television sets. As you said, they saw Parizad on their YouTube phones.
Yeah.
So that is the degree of popularity that you can. And what was it about? It was about a poor man who suddenly had this adventurous, exciting life. They lived vicariously through that character. But then, to quote a completely different example, I'm not going to name the play, but the entire plot of that drama was that a woman is forced into marriage with her cousin in interior Sindh, and he's this amazingly handsome, feudal, Oxford educated
Yeah, we know
guy.
which one you're talking about.
And the whole drama is about whether they're going to do it or not. And that is the theme of the entire play, and yet it found that popularity. There were no themes in that drama except, you know, when
The
is
theme,
he
yeah.
going to succumb or she is going to succumb to him. So, I mean, I agree with Amna, but then there are plays that completely defy
What your expectations are. No, that's absolutely. And my question here is that when we, sorry, oh, you have a question? Please go ahead. Yes.
Hi. How are
Hi.
you?
Very well, thank you.
My name is Saif. I'm an influencer here in United Arab
Amazing.
Emirates. And I have 350,000 followers. What's the best advice you give me to start to write a book?
To write a book, I think Amna can guide you.
I actually have two questions.
Yeah. Okay.
This is the first question.
Okay. So you can tell us the second question. Do you want?
Second question is like, what's the best advice you guys can give me as an influencer to keep going on?
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
you can talk about the book first.
How to write a book.
Yes. How do you start writing a book?
Just take a pen and start writing. It's my formula. It's my formula. Because everyone who wants to write a book, they have a story in their heart. So just take the time out, because it needs a lot of energy, it needs a lot of time, and it needs a lot of solitude. So first of all, it's a very weird and very
हाँ सही है
different,
सही है 10 मिनट में खोल देते हैं
combination,
हाँ
an influencer going to be a writer. So
But you guys, when you write a book, you guys, like, you're not scared or ashamed or something like this?
he's asking
Like,
if you're
not
ashamed or
nervous?
scared or nervous
Write a book about your life.
no, there is no need to be ashamed. Whatever we have written, it's in a way autobiographical. Why to be ashamed to be a writer and to write about yourself? Just write it. We'll see what you have written, then we'll talk about it. Should it be
in the next book fair. We'll see your book then.
I actually have lots to give to you, lots to people.
Okay, sure, we'll see in the next book here what you have
Can I ask
written.
the second question?
Yes, yes.
That is about the influencer, please.
Yeah, what's the best advice you can guys give me as an influencer? Best advice.
Best advice we can give.
That's a question.
That's a good question, but
Yeah, that's a really good question because it's the age of influencers. So I think the best way you can improve or gather more audiences is by picking up what you're the best at. What the internet rewards is consistency. And somehow people want to also see authenticity. So the two things you want to maybe combine are consistency and authenticity. Be truest, the closest. I'm not saying that show everything of, oh, today I've woken up. And though people enjoy that too, by the way, there's something called the mukbang, which people just watch people eat food all the time. So that's bizarre. But you don't have to do that. If you don't feel like doing that, don't do that. But there is something, I'm sure, which you enjoy doing, which you want to share with the world. Do it the best way you can and do it as consistently as you can. And I feel like because so much of our lives are shared online these days, the less you lie, the better. Like don't paint up a picture of who you are, and then because suddenly sometimes somebody will pick something in the background or something or the other, and then they'll troll you for it, and you don't want that. That just adds to a negative experience, although it is a part of the internet culture. But just be as authentic as possible. That's what I would say. We'll open the floor for more questions in just after this last question, because we do have about 10-15 minutes which I want to share with you guys what you guys think and what these guys can answer. Our dramas are inherently also very focused on the good and the bad. The good guy gets the girl, he wins everything, he's great at life by the end of the 30, now 35, 40 episodes. And terrible things happen to the bad person. Do you feel that this moralistic preaching is, in a way, helping people understand life? Or do you feel like grays or leaving, because people apparently don't like the open-ended dramas or features. They want to see a conclusion. That's just human nature. What is your take on how these stories are, constructed for the audiences, and especially for today's audiences, which are very, they demand that instant gratification? Want to take it?
In fact, it's the fairy tale formula.
Yeah.
And they lived happily ever after. There is no happily ever after. And
Okay,
there is
that's
no ever
depressing.
after. There is no ever after. So life goes on, stories goes on. But in a show, we have to, obviously the viewers have spent about 40 weeks or more than, sometimes more than that
Yes.
time with us. So in the end, we have to give them something. In our true lives, in our actual lives, at the end of the day, we say, so that was it. But in the plays, in the dramas, in shows, the viewers don't want to say. They want a reward. They want a reward for the hero. They want a punishment for the villain. So it's the basic formula. But there are plays, there are stories which are open-ended. People like them. But again, we have to, it's a part of entertainment. So we want to give them some reward, something that is not real. Yes, it's sort of a sweet opium. It's like the smell of opium. So it's sweet, it's intoxicating, and it's not true.
It makes you happy for a while.
Yes, but it's not true. There is no happy ending. There is no happily ever after. But yes.
On that depressing note, Shazia?
I mean, yeah, I agree that they want some kind of
Quick fix.
Quick fix in the end, and that makes them happy. But also, your other fact about moral policing, as in this is good and this is bad, I think again I'm going to be a bit controversial, but there is a lack of moral policing generally in Pakistan. Look at what the government is doing, look at what the police is doing, look at what the bureaucracy and the judicial system is doing, I have to say. So I think if the dramas have some sort of moral compass where the bad guy is always punished and the good person wins at the end, for God's sake, at least let the people live that dream. And I think when they watch those plays and they see that the good guy actually gets something in the end, at least it's that harsh reality of that person's everyday life being contradicted, even if it's for 60 minutes. And at least let them have that.
That wish fulfillment should be there.
Yes. How are we going to live otherwise?
So I want to open the floor for questions, and we'll take some closing remarks once we finish the questions. If there's anybody who has a question, can we please get the mic here? Here.
Thank you so much. Elizabeth. So a couple of questions, I mean, without sort of, making any kind of comparison, because all, cinema, drama, everything evolves in society. But for the sake of argument, if we say that there was a heyday Pakistani television drama, what is quite ironical and almost contradictory is that this was during the time when we had military rule. And yet a lot of the plays were plays which were exploring feudalism, which were exploring existentialism, even sort of deeper philosophical questions in the annual drama 83, 84. So I just want to understand that much as there is a huge need always for entertainment, and that's perfectly fine, why is it that those kinds of themes are not being written about as much and very skillfully? And do you think it's also because of the fact that a lot of the writers who used to write for television were also fairly credible writers, mainstream writers, right? So if Ashfaq Ahmed wrote for drama, he was a very well-known sort of literary figure. Now Amna in many ways is the exception, that she's a serious novelist who's also a playwright. And that surely has a bearing on the quality of her writing.
It does,
So
yes.
I just wanted to explore whether the fact that there's now a disconnect between serious writers and writing for television, which is the issue, or is there some other factor, and I may be completely ignorant here, maybe those themes are explored, that the contemporary Pakistani drama is too obsessed with the notion of entertainment?
I agree with you, Roxab. We are obsessed with entertainment. In fact, it's a part of entertainment industry now. In the past heydays of drama, it was not in fact TV show, it was drama. And it could be compared with the plays you can say the realm of literature. It could be placed in the realm of literature. But nowadays we are just writing shows, and they are not considered a part of literature. So we miss that part, and we miss that element of Pakistani dramas nowadays. There are some plays, but the mainstream, the whole stream of drama, it is placed in the realm of entertainment now. So, because it's a part of industry now, we just want to give entertainment, and we want to get reward that is in the form of our finances, our ratings, and the money we make, because we have to run the private industry. We have to run our houses. So this is the basic reason. Economics, industrialization is at the back of all this mess. This is what I think. Shazia, you can better explain.
No, I'm no authority on it because I haven't written for Pakistan television, but by association, my one comment could be that people like Amna and other writers who are a bit credible today is because that's not the only source of livelihood. And the others are chiefly dependent financially on the quantity of stuff that they turn out. A drama writer is not paid handsomely these days. Even the director, for example, the payrolls that I have heard of are not that great, and considering that it's a money-making venture, and there is a lot of money that's being made through the Pakistani drama industry, the share of that profit being given to the one person who conceives the whole idea is not equitable. So obviously when you have that, you're not, everyone has to live, right? So unless there is an alternative source of income coming, I don't blame the writer if they're doing that. People like Ashfaq Ahmed Saab, who are like icons, even Fatma Suraya Bajjan, they were, from financially stable backgrounds and did not rely on playwriting as their chief source of income. Any credible writer these days would not, their parents, their families would not support them if that's the only thing that they do. So I think a little bit the financial structure has to be re-evaluated in order for the quality to basically go up.